Kevin Gordon here with your January 20th edition of the Afternoon Commute from Autosavant.com. Today we've got three things to cover. First, Roush Performance of Mustang tuning fame came out with a press release today about new performance kits that are going to be available for the modern F-150. So the 5-liter V8, the 6.2-liter V8, and the 3.7-liter V6. The kits are made up of cold air intakes, potentially exhaust systems, and really are centered around their supercharging systems. Most of their superchargers, I believe, are like 2.3-liter multi-lobe setup that they've started to use on their Mustangs as well. So far, horsepower and torque numbers don't seem to be coming or pricing, but it's interesting to see that they're sort of the first of the big tuners getting into the F-150 market. It makes a lot of sense considering there's so many F-150s sold every year. But you'll notice that there's one thing missing from that list. What that is the EcoBoost engine. Roush doesn't seem to be interested in touching the EcoBoost so far, like we have in the long-term test F-150. I think the reason for that is the computer control that's attached to the EcoBoost is heavily encrypted, and a lot of the tuners out there have worked hard to try to crack its encryption to be able to get in and reprogram, sort of intercept the incoming variables and modify them to deliver them back to the ECU so that it assumes everything's running normally, even if you're doing things to modify the performance of the engine. So in the EcoBoost example would be things like turning up the turbo boost, fuel mapping, timing, so on and so forth. If you're interested in performance for the EcoBoost, so far there seems to be one major stop, which is Bully Dog. Bully Dog in the summer and really focused around the SEMA show released a GT tuner that is fully capable of working with the EcoBoost. In addition, they introduced a cold air intake that also goes with their tuner, and so far they don't have an exhaust system out, but it does seem like there may be some maps in their tuner that might take advantage of a freer flowing exhaust system. We haven't reached out yet to Bully Dog because at this point we were really interested to see how the EcoBoost did in its stock form and how it lived day to day, what its fuel economy was, how oil consumption was, and all those things. Later on in its life, it's something we may consider pursuing. But I've done a reasonably extensive amount of investigation into people who have bothered to buy the Bully Dog GT tuner and put it in their trucks, and everybody seems to be very happy with it. You know, it's a pretty common set of gains they seem to be getting at. It's, you know, close to 40 horsepower and 40 or 50 foot-pounds of torque that you add to the EcoBoost with the GT tuner, which is impressive. People don't seem to be hitting a large fuel economy penalty, but most of them are running a tune that requires them to run 91 octane. So maybe Bully Dog's taking advantage of higher compression ratios by running, you know, higher octane fuels. So look forward to all the final numbers coming out, and I'm sure some of the magazines and maybe some of the other sites will get to do some performance testing on some of the modified F-150s. Number two for today is about the fact that after they tallied all the final numbers for the year, GM came out as the number one selling auto manufacturer in the world last year. It was about 3 days ago that they announced this. Well, today, Volkswagen came back out and said, not so fast. We actually think that we're the number one manufacturer in the world. The reason why Volkswagen is challenging GM's claim is two parts. One, GM included all their sales in China, which supposedly Volkswagen didn't do. And two, and more importantly, Volkswagen didn't include its truck divisions in Europe, which is MAN and another one I can't remember, Scanta or Scana, one of those other, truck manufacturers. And they say if they include those numbers, they may have actually sold more cars than GM in 2011. Ultimately, what we're talking about is, 9 million cars at this point for GM, the car side of Volkswagen's 8.1 million vehicles sold. So it should be interesting to see if they continue to battle or everybody decides it's really not that important. The final fact there is the fact that GM sold more cars in Asia than it did in America last year, which I would have never have guessed. And for number 3, and the final thing for the week, I wanted to talk about the BMW 3 Series, the icon, the sports sedan that seems to live with a target on its back for everybody else. 2 things. One, the 2012 online, you can go on and configure your BMW popped up a few days ago. So, of course, like all good gearheads, I went in and built what would be my ideal 3 Series. And unlike all those purists out there that say, I wouldn't want it with all the extra stuff and added weight, I like my tech in cars. So I built one, a 335 sedan, rear-wheel drive only, with luxury package, sport package, nav, technology package, and then, you can really tart up a 3 Series BMW at this point. You can get heads-up displays, lane departure warnings. You can now get their applications built right into the car, which is a reasonably expensive adder. Anyway, with all that being said, by the time I was done, I had almost a $57,000 3 Series built in front of me, which sort of surprised me. I mean, I knew that 3 Series, if you really, really, really dolled them up, you could touch $50,000. But the fact that that car is, flirting with $60,000 now is shocking to me. The second part about the 3 Series is that BMW announced that there will be an active hybrid version of the 3 Series coming out in the fall of this year. It's going to use the same turbocharged inline 6 that's in the 335, but with the addition of a 55 horsepower electric drive motor and lithium-ion batteries. So it's going to be a sporty thing, you have to figure, because lithium ions are not extremely heavy. They've seemed like they've done a good job of packaging them in the trunk, where typically you'd have a bit of a drop floor. They've stacked them all in there, so even if you have pass-throughs to the rear seats, they still all work normally. The attention-grabbing tech part about that car that caught my eye was the fact that it's going to use its nav system and maps to better understand what's about to happen with the car. And the best example of that is if it knows you're about to go down a long descent on a highway that you're on, it will start to switch over and use more and more of the remaining battery charge and the electric motor to drive you instead of the gas engine, knowing that it's going to have a chance to recharge itself as it travels down the hill. That's an interesting use of technology, and it makes a lot of sense to start to know. I mean, let's face it, it's easy for a car now with GPS to know where it is and where it's going to be going, and to start to make decisions about how the car is going to act based upon those gets to be a pretty interesting use of the technology that's available today. So there we have it, your afternoon commute for January the 20th. It's a beautiful sunny Friday here outside of Philadelphia. It's been a fun week, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow.